Okay, hello everyone. So a while ago, I did a video about, well, not a while ago, it was probably like 2 weeks ago now. I did a video about voting and why I don't think voting is an effective tool for achieving anything worthwhile. And this person that I have on stream right now, by the way, what should I refer to you as?
Yeah, you can call me Jur.
Okay, Jur. Jur is in my anarcho syndicalism server on Discord, and we were talking about this issue. Jur thinks that there is some value to voting, and so I thought it would be interesting to have this conversation live on YouTube stream. Um, so I'll just let you make your case for why voting is in some way useful, and then we can take it from there. Is that okay?
Yeah, but let me just first uh, clear myself that I am only arguing for federal election,
Right.
and this is not for your municipality or local elections at all. This
Right.
is only focused on federal election. And also, what I understood from your text messages on Discord was uh, as following. So you believe that voting doesn't achieve accelerated progressive change. That was
Yeah.
the thing that dragged my attention towards this.
Right.
Uh, and I think that federal elections are uh, really important,
Hmm.
and one should vote in those elections not because we want to make a change in what in a system that are currently running, but to make a direct action and to make a direct action towards betterment of our status quo and abolishment of unwanted authority. Um, Also, that because federal elections are not only important for the country in which you are living, but it's also important for global political and social uh, conditions. Uh, what I think is, if you vote, you you are not only making a decision where you are resisting some current power structure, but you are also uh, making your own uh, um, action where you are trying to um, so let me just make it uh, wait, let me just say it this way. So mm, if we take the current scenario where we uh, generally focus on US elections, Trump and Biden were running for the elections, and a lot of people are trying to make a case where they are saying that vote for lesser evil. And I don't think we should vote for lesser evil. I think that we vote for the person who leads us towards or leads us or support us in direct or indirect way to achieve whatever we want to achieve, or whatever changes we want in current status quo.
Okay. Um. So then, would a fair summation of your argument
Mhm.
be that um, one should vote in the federal elections because voting in the federal elections could allow for a candidate winning the election that will do things that are more conducive to our goals, whatever our goals are.
Yes.
Okay. So the reason I brought up accelerated progressive change in our conversation was because that's my goal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't. So just for to see how much our goals line up,
Mm-hmm.
like, how do you describe yourself politically?
Well, I don't think my personal opinions on politics matter that much, but I try to learn political philosophy in general. So I keep my opinions outside it, and I try to just understand what are the different philosophies and literatures are around whatever politician are currently in power, or whatever politician are running for achieving that power. But really think, if you really want to know what I think that I would say I am much more uh, anarcho-syndicalist.
Okay. So then we probably have similar goals.
Yeah.
Um, I sum up the goal of anarcho syndicalism as accelerated progressive change
Mhm.
because anarcho syndicalists want a lot of changes in society, and they want those changes in society to happen rapidly at the initiation of oppressed groups in the society,
Mhm.
as opposed to, for instance, liberals, especially in the 19th century, who were for some small change that was to be implemented slowly and by kind of technocrats, basically. So that's why I sum up the anarcho-syndicalist goals that way. And the reason that I don't think voting is conducive to that goal is because there's really nothing about voting for this candidate or that candidate
Mhm.
that will actually um do anything to further that goal or even make
Mhm.
the social climate
Mhm.
more conducive to that goal. So if there is something about voting that
Mhm.
would uh, do that, then I'd be happy to hear it. But I haven't seen it.
Okay. So first, let me ask you this question: Do you
Mhm.
think, do you only care about your own country, or do you care about whole world
I care about the whole
in
world.
in in politics only?
Yeah, I care about the whole world.
Yeah. All right. Then, do you think that whoever will be the president, or is the president, can make any decision that can change uh, status quo in society?
Um, no. They can make so if a president, a head of state,
Mm-hmm.
to make it more global, because in
Yeah.
the UK they have prime ministers or whatever, depending on different countries, the
Yeah. Yeah.
title is
I know.
different. But a head of
Mm-hmm.
state
Mm-hmm.
can make policy decisions, obviously, but
Yeah.
none of those policy decisions are going to be able to change anything about the underlying social structures
Mm-hmm.
that provide for the existence of a head of state. So, if Joe Biden is the president elect, when he
Mm-hmm.
gets in office,
Mm-hmm.
he's not going to be able to pass any legislation or any policy or back any
Mm-hmm.
policy
Mm-hmm.
that is going to change the or in any way augment the
Mm-hmm.
capitalist world economy that the United States is enmeshed in. He's not even going to be able to pass legislation that fundamentally or back policy that fundamentally alters the United States as a nation state
Mhm.
within
Yeah,
that world economy.
yeah, I agree with that. But my position is the changes they propose in Senate or in society, they are somewhat related to what you and me or other people want to achieve, right? Somewhat, not completely.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's take an example. Let's say we want to make a change where we want to abolish some uh, existing power structures, right? Do you think that we can able to abolish that immediately, like in 2 days or 3 days?
No.
All right. So we need time for that, right? Also, so keep that
Yeah.
factors in mind. We need time. That's the one factor. The another factor is, do you think that we can achieve those goals without proper education or knowledge
Um.
about the subject?
No.
All right. So that's the second factor, right?
Sure.
Good. Now let's assume that Trump will continue his next 4 years, or he will get selected in after 4 years or any time in future. Not only Trump, but any Republican candidate. All right.
Sure.
So, yeah. So if you have to compare uh, a candidate with another candidate, do you think that who who will be more supportive towards the working class uh, when they get in the power? Can you compare those two candidates they are running for the presidency?
Yeah. So here's the
Hmm.
thing about that.
Hmm.
So now this might not seem like a direct answer to your question
Hmm.
from the start, but there's an explanation there. So I'm going to get around to it. But
Yeah,
so
sure.
the thing about it is that um, the U.S. presidency is the position
Hmm.
of the head of state, the United States. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So that means
Mm.
that whoever takes office
Mhm.
is going to represent the
Mm.
United States as a nation state within the
Yeah,
capitalist world economy.
yeah.
Um, and what that means is that whoever takes office is going to be the head of a machinery and apparatus
Hmm.
that is designed to make sure that the benefits of the system
Hmm.
uh, stay within the hands of a very few
Hmm.
and are denied to the vast majority of people, to the working class, as you say.
Hmm.
Um, so, and that's going to be the case even as social destabilization continues. So, even in a situation where the capitalist world economy goes into terminal crisis and completely disintegrates,
Hmm.
the elites, the state structures, uh, they will be tasked with instituting a new form of inequality
Hmm.
where it's not going to be capitalism anymore, but the system will still concentrate the benefits at the top. Um, so
Yeah,
to
I
answer your
understand your.
question, well,
Hmm.
let me just answer it fully. So to
Yeah.
answer your question, because of this,
Hmm.
uh, I actually think that from the point of view of the working class and the
Hmm.
lower strata globally,
Hmm.
Biden and Trump are basically, and whoever tries to run for U.S.
President.
presidency
Mhm.
is, they're fundamentally identical. Neither of them are friendly to the interests of the working class because both of them have to make sure that the benefits of the system and the benefits of any system that ends up replacing capitalism in the next 50 years, as I would argue,
mm,
that those benefits are going to be concentrated at the top and away from the working class, as you say.
mm. Yeah, I understand that 99% versus 1% power structure very well, and I know that whoever will be in power will only try to like continue this existing power structure rather than trying to make a different power structure, or trying to like slowly make this that ratio uh, decline towards declining. But my point is like there is they are identical, whoever is running for the presidency, but there are also some difference, right? There are some significant difference between both of the candidates at any election. So if you if you take an example where if someone who is much more liberal, or much more lean towards left left part of the spectrum, they they at least force this system to establish policies that are going to help the working class to get much time and much more to get much more time and get much more educated, so they can themselves take direct action towards abolishment of this power structure, right? Do you agree with that?
Not really. The thing is that so what my argument is that
Mm-hmm.
so let's say it's not even between Joe Biden and Trump.
Trump, yeah.
Let's say it's between Trump and Bernie Sanders, or Biden and Bernie Sanders, or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
Bernie Sanders gets elected. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Bernie Sanders is known for being left leaning, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
And my argument is that even if he gets into power, the
Mm-hmm.
structural imperatives, the rules of the structure, of the social structure, um, the social structure of the world economy, the social structure of the United States as a part of the world economy,
Mm-hmm.
those things are going to prevent even the best intentioned left leaning Bernie Sanders like politician
Mm-hmm.
from enacting anything meaningful uh, for the betterment of the conditions of the lower strata, or for the betterment of circumstances for movements to achieve their goals. Now, it is the case that that these structures can pass
Mm-hmm.
such legislation or implement such policies, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't do so just because someone left leaning gets into power. They do so because the social forces that they're up against, the
Mm-hmm.
organized lower strata,
Mm-hmm.
the movements that oppose the status quo, pressure them to do so. So, from this vantage point, it's not who's in office that matters. It
Mm-hmm.
What matters is the balance of social forces.
Uh, I think that matters who is in the office, because they are the one who can propose the policies and legislation towards the, uh, in the office, right? And they can take decisions, but they can't take any decision. Like Trump take a decision to move out from the Paris climate uh, summit, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and Bernie is sorry, Bernie, yeah, Bernie and Biden are both were saying that as soon as they get in the power, they will take US again in the climate summit, right? They will again uh,
sure.
take
I mean,
US. Yeah,
I haven't seen them say that, but I believe you that they said that.
yeah. I mean, like I heard Biden. Biden's
Sure.
speech, and he was proposing this.
Sure. Yeah, I
So
believe that.
yeah, let's assume that Biden take US again into this Paris climate summit, right? And what changes that makes is not only uh, affects US, but it also affects the whole world. And those changes are motivate other people to actually look and understand these critical situations and get much more knowledge about it. So
Hmm.
if right now, if like people who support Trump, they I heard a lot of people saying that like climate change is not real and it's like just a
Right.
fake news or something like that. But
I'm pretty sure he's a denier himself. So.
yeah, he also denied it multiple times. And if someone who is less educated, right, someone who belongs to like the lower end of the society, and they don't have enough time and also don't have enough knowledge about the issue, they genuinely believe the person who is in power, right? So if
Hmm.
someone who is not trying, or they are not in power to make a change, but they are just proposing that yes, this is an issue and we will try to make progressive step towards it. It it makes the people think that we should care about these things, and we should try to gather much more knowledge about these things. And once the people themselves understand the situation with their own wisdom and with their own moral value system, they evaluate the issue, they are able to take a position on that, right? So if currently, if you go on a road and ask some guy like, what do you think about climate change, you will get different answers depending on where they belongs, or who they believe in, or what kind of literature they are consuming over time, right?
Right.
And those kind of media and literature are uh, uh, controlled by these governments or by these power structures.
Hmm.
All right. So once we elect the person who is, I'm not saying that he will come and try start making rapid changing changes for the whole world or for the country from the next day, but at least he will not deny or not create further uh, not create further harm on the issue, and don't he will not spread this kind of false accusations and conspiracy theories. And he will actually, he not only Joe Biden, but anyone who is making a right or taking a right position on issues, we should try to give them much more power, even though we as a anarcho syndicalist, we always believe that power structures are bad, and power itself is an enemy for society.
Okay. So the climate change issue with regard to the
Mhm,
elections is actually a very interesting one, in my opinion, because
yeah.
so you have Trump,
Hmm.
who's all right. So actually, let me frame it this way. So
Hmm.
essentially, if you ask a climate scientist, and I can give
Hmm.
you an interview where a climate scientist
Yeah.
corroborates this
Yeah.
about the political possibilities for
Hmm.
doing what we need to do
Hmm.
to fight climate change,
Hmm.
they will tell you that even in countries with democratic elections,
Hmm.
the political structures are bound up with the industries
Hmm.
that are causing the climate crisis. So the public has very little sway in elections.
Hmm.
Um, you know, uh, in the public doesn't have the meaningful sway in elections to influence
Mhm.
the government to start implementing proactive climate policy
Mhm.
because of that. And so, with Trump and Biden in particular, this issue is highlighted because on the one side, we have Trump, who's basically the deregulator in chief when it comes to the environment. He's gutted regulations at a
Mhm.
historic level.
Mhm.
But then on the other side, we have Biden, who not only does he refuse to be pushed to take more proactive positions about climate by activists, he's
Mhm.
also funded by the fossil fuel industry. So again, the other guy who's supposedly going to be better on climate
Mhm.
is bound up with the industries that are causing the problem. Then the other thing to consider is
Mhm.
that we don't like, you know, the whole program of incremental change has
Mhm.
been kind of tossed in the trash for a long time for many reasons.
Mhm.
But when it comes to the environment, we
Mhm.
have very, very little time to implement the wide sweeping changes that we need to prevent mega catastrophe. So
Mhm.
incremental change on this issue isn't even an option.
Yeah, I'm not saying we are going to increment in we by voting we are going to increment the changes. I'm saying that by voting for the person who is right and agree that climate change is an issue, we are going to make a decision of supporting a person who is making right claims. And by doing that, we are not going to increment the changes, but by doing that, we are going to increment eh, the the knowledge that goes on TVs and on channels, on news channels, and on people shouting on radios or stuff like that. They are going to have an have an topic to talk about, and they will talk about it more, and the more they will talk about it, the more people are going to understand these issues much more better.
Yeah,
Do you
but
think, let me ask you this way,
okay.
if do you think that the amount of publication who publish um, any kind of research papers or articles on climate change. Let's say in Trump's period, there will be 100 articles about it. Do you think that it will be same for Biden's period of time as well?
Well, I mean, the publication of academic materials on it
Hmm.
only has to do with the government insofar as the government is going to give grants for research.
Hmm.
Um, Now, you could probably make an argument either way that regardless, the grants for research are going to be relatively stable because
No, I'm not saying that.
people,
Wait, I'm not saying that they are gonna give more grants to the people who are
well,
researching about.
that's the only way it really pertains to the government. I mean, you could make an argument that Trump is less likely to give those grants,
Mm.
but the problem, as I see it,
Mhm.
is that so you know your argument is well, Biden at least thinks it's an issue,
Mhm.
but to what degree he thinks it's an issue is questionable because again he's bound up with the same industries that are causing the problem. So yes, Trump is catastrophic for the
Mhm.
environment, but
Mhm.
I'm not convinced that Biden is going to be any better because
Mhm.
he's literally backed by fossil fuels. And that's the issue I was talking about before, where
Mhm.
in countries where you have democratic elections,
Mhm.
the industries that are doing the damage are
Mhm.
so influential on the state structures that hold those democratic elections that the public cannot affect a meaningful outcome for the
Mhm.
environment through the elections. It's just they can't.
Uh, I mean that if there is much more awareness about the issue on media and on academic basis as well, then more people are going to read about it, right? And when we have uh, a direct action of strike against those companies, or a direct action of taking a march outside in streets, there will be much more people who are in those kind of actions, and much people, masses can change things much more rapidly than a 5 or 10% can do. So more awareness can direct more people, and more people can make a change, or can increase the speed of the change.
Yeah, so I agree with you that
Mhm.
uh, people's awareness of the issue is
Mhm.
key,
Yeah,
but my argument is that I don't see the convincing case that Biden is going to do anything to improve the education around that topic, even marginally, because again, he's backed by the interests that are causing the problem.
he will not going to. Let's suppose he just don't give a grant to any colleges who are trying, or any universities who are trying to re- make a research on climate change, right? Let's just assume that. But at least on a stage where thousands of people are listening to him, he is not gonna make a false claim about it, or he is at least gonna address the issue that we are facing a catastrophe, and we need to at least make ourselves aware about the issue and gain more knowledge about it, right?
Well, but even on the rhetorical issue, again,
Mhm.
he resists getting pushed to a more proactive approach rhetorically by activists. He just, he tells them, "Oh, look at my platform." So
Yeah.
he's not really going to be pushed rhetorically on that. And so at the end of the day then what you have is
Mhm.
basically just rhetoric by someone who's backed by fossil fuel interests. So at the end of the day, that doesn't seem that valuable to me.
But
At least
I mean, if
valuable
you.
to the point of justifying voting for him.
Mhm.
If you're going to make the argument that every little bit of acknowledging the issue is
Mhm.
crucial, I
Yeah.
agree. But
Mhm.
you can, the effective way to acknowledge the issue
Mhm.
is to build environmental movements, not to vote for Biden. you know.
Yeah, but if you want to make an environmental movement, right? If you go and try to make an environmental movement in Republic State, how many people are going to support you? 5 people, 10 people, maybe 100, and
Well,
try to do the same in a democratic state.
well,
There is a significant difference in those numbers.
I'd like to see the hard evidence for that because
Oh, right. Yeah,
because
I can give you that after this.
sure,
Yeah.
sure,
Mm.
because there's like even under Trump, like one of the big, people like his supporters don't care, but people
Mhm.
who are willing to question his administration, one of the big things for them has
Mhm.
been that
And
he's
mhm.
incredibly destructive about he's incredibly bad for the climate change issue.
Mhm.
So it's not like Trump is in power, so therefore the possibility
Mm,
of building movements goes away. I
mhm.
mean, ultimately, again,
Mhm.
how what the issue that dictates
Mhm.
whether those changes or whether the policies that are required to fight climate change are implemented
Mhm.
is that's dictated by again the balance of social forces, how much pressure is being put on the United States government and on fossil fuel industries to
Mhm.
concede to environmental movements. That's the ultimate issue.
Well, I am also talking about this issue globally. So
Oh yeah, I mean
I
globally again, it's
Yeah,
the same thing.
yeah. No, it's not. I don't think it's the same thing, and let me explain why.
Okay.
Uh, i- if you go in underdeveloped countries, they usually listen to these people more, and they believe in those people more than academic papers and stuff like that. They don't have access to those kind of things, all right? So they just turn on the news channel and they listen someone speaking about this issue. So the amount of awareness can be achieved by voting a right person is a significant amount of change. Is a significant. So if you are not gonna vote at all and you think that, yeah, maybe whoever comes in the power cannot make any changes in the issue, yeah, I agree, they can't make any changes. They can't force the government to pass legislations or policies that are going to change or make a difference in the issue. But what they can do is they can speak up to to the people who are listening to them, and the people who are listening to them, it's their job to, like, make a movement in their own part of the world to to make the change. It's not that, I don't think it's anyone's job to go and start doing stuff. It's a combined effort that we have to uh, we have to it's a combined effort that we have to put in these issues to overcome such a big problems. So for to make that combined effort much more effective, we need people, more people, to be aware of this issue. Now, if let's assume that there is a guy in underdeveloped country who don't have time to look at this stuff every day. They just come from the work and they just turn on the TV and he listen to the Trump saying that climate change is not an issue and you don't have to worry about it at all. They are not gonna make an effort to gain more knowledge about that, because they believe that person that, okay, this is not an issue, I don't have to think about it after I close the TV. And if someone who is, at least he is not making a change in the system, but at least he is saying that this is an issue and this is a problem, then the people who are listening to them, they can go online on internet or read an article in newspaper or talk with other people who lives around them, and they can organize or make combined effort in their own part to make a difference in the problem.
Okay, you're underestimating quite a bit
Hmm.
the political disenfranchisement because um just as a global trend,
Hmm.
people no longer really think
Hmm.
that the state structures are going to do things that are in their interest or do things for them. You know,
Yeah.
of course, people may still vote and they may
Hmm.
still, advocate for policies, but
Yeah.
on the whole, as a result of an ongoing crisis that's uh, you know, been happening or been an ongoing crisis since the 70s.
Yeah.
There's a crisis of legitimacy for the states in that people don't actually think the states are going to do much for them. So even if we have Joe Biden on the TV
Hmm.
being broadcasted to someone in an underdeveloped country who's
Hmm.
working,
Yeah,
12
long
hours
hours.
a
Yeah.
day in a sweatshop,
Yeah.
that person isn't necessarily going to take Joe Biden seriously because the general trend is that no
Hmm.
matter what people in power say, the public generally does not believe that the state structure is actually going to do anything actionable.
Yeah, I agree. People don't believe in states. that's true. And maybe the trend that is going that you are talking about will increase over time. uh,
It is going to increase over time.
yeah, yeah, it is going to be increase over time, but at least they have a right factual understanding of the issue, right?
Well,
At least they have a right understanding. If someone is going to come and ask them, like, do you think this is a issue, even let's assume they don't even care about this stuff, but the person who is caring about this thing, they are going to ask that person, then they at least say that, yeah, I heard a person, I don't actually believe in that person, but I heard a person talking that, yeah, this is an issue. it's
yeah,
it it's a significant positive change that is going to occur only because there is no wrong factual in there is no wrong factual knowledge about the problem on TV or on media service.
well, I mean, regardless of who's in office, though, the
Hmm.
disinformation campaign is always going to be a thing. I mean, the on YouTube,
Hmm.
there's PragerU. I don't know if you've ever watched their videos,
Yeah.
but it's basically a right wing think tank dedicated to barraging people with propaganda videos about things like denying climate change.
Yeah.
And that, in some ways, is reaching more people than just when the president talks on TV. So that's going to be an issue regardless of who's in power.
Mm,
But I think the crucial issue there, though,
mm,
is I think you're overestimating how much stock people put into what politicians say. Now, we
mm,
might assume that generally people have some, uh, some deference to what politicians say in all circumstances because they're politicians and they're the
mm.
influential voices.
Yeah.
But part of the ongoing crisis of the modern world system is
Mm,
that people are less and less putting stock into what politicians say. So even if Biden comes on TV and he says,
yeah.
"Oh yeah, climate change is a problem,"
Mm.
even then, people are less and less likely to even take that statement seriously.
So what do you think people take seriously? If they don't take
Um,
politicians seriously, if they don't take news articles seriously, if they don't read um, research paper and they don't take research paper seriously, then what people take serious?
well, I think
How they
people,
generate their own factual knowledge around
yeah,
issues?
I think people are liable to take seriously things that are uh, presented to them by
Mm,
an infrastructure around them that's on the
mm,
ground with them.
mm,
And that's why movement building is important. Now, the the political crisis I was talking about is also a
mm,
problem for movement building
mm.
because the political
Yeah, but
disenfranchisement that's hold on the
mm,
political disenfranchisement that's been going on
mm,
is not okay, well, I reject what the people in power are saying, so
mm,
now I'm going to involve myself in anti-systemic social movements. It's actually I reject what the people in power are saying,
mm.
and I largely think that the whole business of politics is just kind of irrelevant. So
Mm.
it's a dropping out really in a lot of instances. So movements are going to have to overcome that obstacle, but
Yes.
uh,
Mhm,
but you should be if you, to remedy that situation, you should be aiming to provide alternative infrastructures
mm,
that can actually influence that are
mm,
actually going to be able to present things to people in a way that matters to them
mm.
rather than trying to play to the declining ideological influence that the state structures and politicians have over people.
But you are saying that they are losing that trust of the people, and you just said that people don't believe in them, in those things. Then why we should try to make this make
I'm
this
not
kind of
saying
effort?
nobody believes in anything. I'm saying
Okay.
that people trust and take seriously the rhetoric of politicians or anybody from a state structure, less and less like they take that they put less and less stock in that. So it doesn't really matter what Biden says at the end of the
Okay,
day.
let's say it doesn't matter what Biden says, right? Let's say
Okay.
it doesn't. Let's. I still don't agree with that. I still think that who the people who are influencing people, other people are. Uh, sorry, what I was trying to say. Uh, Yeah, I still think that influencer and people who are talking on these stages, they make a significant difference in people's view. Uh, but you said that people don't believe in that, and we should try to make we should try to increase uh, uh, those kind of untrust towards these systems in people. We influence that kind of uh, terminology, right? That's what you're trying.
Well, I'm saying more that we should take the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
of the crisis of ideological legitimacy for states to
Yeah.
build an anti systemic movement that people can get ideologically invested in and that can matter to people. And that's not easy, but it's the
Mm-hmm.
necessary thing to do.
All right. Well, if people are not believing in the state, then why we should try to make people think that why we should try to influence more people to untrust state legitimacy if people are already not taking
Well,
it
I'm not
serious.
saying we should get people to trust the state less. I'm saying we
Mm-hmm.
should take the opportunity in
Mm-hmm.
an era where people are trusting the state less to
Okay.
build an anti-systemic movement
Mm-hmm.
that provides an alternative ideological framework for those people.
All right. Interesting. I need to understand it much more deeply, I guess.
Mm.
Uh, I still believe that people who are talking on these stages make significant difference in in general public's view towards these issues, and that's what my main like argument against your views. So I thought that, and I still think that if we try to vote a person who is making who is not like actually trying to convince other people that they are going to come in the power and make the changes that people want, but they are uh, like they are trying to give people right information about the issues, and that is at least those kind of things are uh, good, and we should appreciate it, and we should try to encourage those kind of people to come into power, even if we want if we, even if we our goals are not inclined with those people.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing with that is that regardless of what I was talking about before,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, regardless of who is in power, their imperative is actually not to bring people correct information. It's to manage the ongoing social destabilization that's going on. So, uh, Biden, the
Mm-hmm.
climate issue is going to matter only in the sense that it is more fuel for an ongoing social crisis, economic crisis, political crisis, and he has to manage that in some way. And the same thing
Mm-hmm.
goes for Trump. The way
Yeah.
Trump has been dealing with that
Mm-hmm.
is just to deregulate
Mm-hmm.
and give fossil fuels, and industry in general leeway to do
Mhm.
whatever they want.
Mhm.
And I'm not convinced that Biden is going to give them any less, any at least significantly less leeway,
Mhm.
because he's backed by them. So
Yeah,
again,
they are
the
giving them
interest,
money, and yeah, I
yeah,
understand that these industries are giving them money or like funding their like parties and stuff like that. So they are not going to like close some industries or trying to like make industries stop using fossil fuel. I understand that,
yeah.
but
So yeah, go
my
ahead. Sorry.
yeah, I'm not saying that they are going to take an action. I'm saying that at least they are going to say to the people that this is an issue. Then it's people's power that they can make a collective decision that okay, we are not wanting this company in our area, so we will go together, uh, organize our own movement, and then we are going to strike against that company, or taking direct action towards any authorities they are taking uh, actions that are harming climate issues or any other issues they are there. But if someone is there who is like completely in denial of these issues, then people are not going to get together and talk about this, or they are not going to organize, because they think that if the person who is in power is not caring about it, then why should we care about
Well, okay. The other thing, so another thing about that is,
it? Mhm.
um, I made the point about the crisis of political legitimacy, but going back to what I
Mhm.
said just a few moments ago,
Yeah.
uh, Biden is not going to want to say things that are going to
Yeah.
galvanize people to care about the issue. He
Mhm.
he'll what he's demonstrated throughout the election campaign is
Yeah.
he's going to give lip service to the issue so that
Mhm.
Democrats will vote for him.
Yeah.
But since he's backed by fossil fuels, he's going to be one of the last people that is going to
Mhm.
want to say anything that's actually going to galvanize people to work
Mhm.
against fossil fuel interests and fight climate change.
Yeah, he is not going to organize people, but
Well,
people will
he's not
become
going to want
aware
to.
of the problem.
Well, but
People is going.
he's not even necessarily going to want people to be aware of the problem. He just
He
wants
is
to
not
pay.
wanting it. He is not wanting to make people aware of the problem. He is not. I understood that, but people themselves are going to make themselves aware about the issue after taking or consuming this his or the person who is in power, not only Biden, but the person who is in power is speaking on media, or just like making uh, the, the the pointing out the situation that yeah, this is the problem. And how I come to this conclusion, let me make myself much more clear here. The people who lives in European countries, they are well aware about climate change, and well they are much more organized about the issue. They get together multiple times, they create small movements, more than the people who lives in United States. Why? Not because the people, it's the same over here as well. I don't think like any um, um, chancellor or say, head of the state are going to cut off fossil fuel industry in Europe. But why people are more aware? Because they have more time, much more knowledge about the issue. How they get that time and knowledge about the issue? Because they listen to these people, they read articles about it, they read books about it. And why people write and publish about these issues? Because they think that this is an issue, because someone pointed out that okay, you can look at this issue in more detail, not only about climate change, but about any other social issues. And then they themselves conduct a research, then write a book or article, and then other people are going to read it, and then they organize But if you have someone who is completely in denial of the issue, they say it is not an issue, you don't have to care about it, then the people have like they are going to go blind. They think that this is not an issue. We don't read anything about it, or we don't have to look at it.
Well, but the denial of the situation has been the model, regardless of who's been in power historically. I mean, the reason that we're in such, you know,
Hmm.
deep shit right now is
Yeah.
because literally no one, Democratic or Republican, has paid any significant attention to the issue. Um, so,
They,
but then the other thing is that I'm not like, from my reading of the social world, from my
mm-hmm,
experience with it, I'm not sure how you get to the conclusion that
hmm.
people take initiative on this issue because a politician says something about it.
I'm
Because
not
so
saying
if you,
politicians say something. They point out towards the issue. Like
yeah, but
you believe that people at least take a look at the things that politicians point out, and that's why we are today
sure.
here, right? You and me are
Well,
also here today because we don't believe those politicians, and we try to make our own knowledge about the issue by having this kind of productive conversation with our other people who lives around us, or have connection with us. And we why we come together and talk about these issues, because we think that this is an issue, and someone point out at that issue, and we did our own research on it, and then we try to talk with each other, and then if we think that that is a legitimate issue, we will organize some direct action or movement towards it. So at least someone who is pointing at the issue, even he is in complete denial that he will take any action towards the problem, but at least he is pointing, or he is like making a single statement about the issue will have a significant effect on masses who are listening to them, or they are going to at least take a look at the issue. That's what I understand, or that's what my understanding of
yeah,
social.
I just don't think that Joe
Mhm,
Biden simply paying lip service to the issue for his campaign
mhm,
is going to cause that domino effect, even in the small way that you're talking about. But
mhm,
that aside, though,
mhm,
so why can't we just build networks to have these kind of productive conversations and increase
mhm,
our awareness that way, rather than hoping that if we elect Joe Biden, he's
mhm.
going to make vague allusions to the issue and then that will get people interested?
No, I'm not in any way. I'm not arguing with you that you should vote for Joe Biden. I don't live in states. I don't care about the election. But I think that in any federal election, you have in some countries you have two. In some countries you have one choice to vote for. In some countries you have three, four choices. But when you have multiple choices, you always select a choice which not give you the goal that you want to achieve, but at least have some effect or some positive effect towards the goal that you want to achieve. So
Yeah,
even Joe Biden is not going to like make. I am not saying that Joe Biden will come into the power. You go and vote for the Joe Biden, and it's like finished now. But you should vote for the any any person, but you should vote for the person who is trying to make a positive change in the society, that leads that leads a positive change towards the goal that you want to achieve as a person, right? So I let's take an example. I want to make a change uh in a in a in a company that is nearby me, and there is like 50 people working for 12 hours. I want to make a change that I want the company to make the working hour cut the working hour to 8 from 12 hours, right? Now,
Sure.
how I can organize stuff for that? I need some kind of public support, right? If I go out and talk with one person and I say, hey, let's organize for this thing, we should take care about this thing, this is a problem, no one is going to listen me. If the person who is in power, like let's say the mayor of the city, or someone who is in power is continuously making that working hour is not a problem, you can work for 14 hours, then people who are listening, or who are uh, like working, the only people that are actually in problem are going to care about the issue. And that's how those people are, let's say 50 people working in that industry, they are the one who is aware of the issue, and other people are, yeah, that's not an issue, I work for 14 hours, they also can work for 12 hours. But the people who are actually working in the industry have the problem. That problem have even the person who is in power is addressing. He is not saying that from tomorrow I will come into the power and I will cut down the working hours to 8. He is at least saying that long working hours is a problem. That's a vague argument that someone is making, right? Not only politician, but any influencer on like any other media service. They are at least making a statement that leads your that make a positive change in the current scenario. And that after that, if you go out and talk with some person like we should organize for this stuff, then they at least take your statement in consideration, and they will try to organize and try much more people to make aware of the situation, rather than just saying that, yeah, go, I heard there is that not even an issue, I don't want to listen to you, go away.
Sure.
Do you believe that this kind of change is possible?
Well, give me a second because I'm dealing with something in chat. So 1 second.
Mhm.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, so yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's actually worked kind of the opposite way historically.
Mhm.
So uh anti-systemic movements against the status quo, against capitalism,
Yeah.
cropped up because there were a bunch of people who
Mhm.
decided that they rejected what the people in power were saying, the values that they were trying to put onto society. And
Mhm.
then, as a result of those movements, when the people in
Yeah.
power start making concessions to
Mhm.
the anti-systemic movements, to the lower strata, and start, conceding to the values of the
Mhm.
lower strata and the movements more, that doesn't give the movements more fuel. It actually just binds the lower strata to the
Mhm.
existing order and
Mhm.
demobilizes the movements. So it's worked kind of the opposite way of than what you're talking about in real life.
uh I mean, like, what I was trying to say is, like, if you go and strike with 5 people, no one is going to listen. But if you go and strike with 50 people, at least you have some kind of media interest in the issue. And to make aware 50 people, you have someone who they trust saying that this is a problem and you should try to understand it in your own, with your own with your own intellect.
Right. Yeah, I
Mhm.
agree
So,
that.
let me ask you this: do you
Sure.
think that we should stop this election system completely? We will like just stop these elections.
Um. Yeah. Ultimately, my goal
Mhm.
is getting rid of the nation state structures. So yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, I guess effectively, yeah.
Alright. Yeah, I agree with you that I also don't. I also want to abolish the authorities that are harmful for society, and I think election. authorities are also one of those. But if you try to undermine a problem, you should start from from the smaller part of it. And uh, people like us trying to fight a system which is really huge, and rather than focusing on the issues that are on top, we should try start from the bottom part of it, and we can go further step by step. uh, that's that's how I approach towards the bigger problems in life as well. And I think that's how we should address this problem in political and social issues as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a bottom up approach, but
Mm-hmm,
the bottom up approach starts with people on the ground. So that's actually kind of why I don't put much stock in elections, because
mm-hmm,
from a bottom up approach, you start with people, at the lower rungs of society, and
mm-hmm,
organizing with those people to build strength from the bottom,
mm-hmm,
to influence the dominant social structures and put pressure on the elites. It's
mm-hmm,
not, that's like, so that's
mm-hmm.
why I don't put much stock in voting.
Yeah, but you should start with the municipality voting, then you go like up, and then the federal election.
Well, but
If
even
you just
starting,
completely deny that we should start like we should not vote in federal election, then people are not gonna listen to you, or maybe even they listen to you. They think that uh, it they think it doesn't matter. They are going to be organize this election after 4 years again. But if you start from the bottom, then that is, if we don't have state election, if we abolish the state election in like couple of years, then we can address the issue of federal election. And up until then, we try to cope with the current system and slowly turn the direction of these systems towards the goal that we want to achieve.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of abolishing the state structure, that actually happens on a much larger scale.
Hmm.
So, like, when there's the opening to changing the structures and getting rid of the dominant ones and putting in new ones, that
Hmm.
comes when there is a system wide, what's called structural crisis. And
Hmm.
that basically means that the mechanisms of the system that enable its stability start breaking down. And so even small actions done by actors within the structural crisis can have big effects as to what is the ultimate outcome of that crisis. So it's actually, it starts at a much broader structural level, and then uh, the opening allows even small groups of actors or even individual actors to have big effects with minor decisions that they make.
Yeah, I believe also that I agree with you that the even a small changes can have bigger effect on systems. Uh, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
But I still think that federal you should vote in the federal. It's still your choice, and you are completely free to make a choice if you want to go out there and vote for the person who align with your goals, or have some kind of common ground with your goals. Uh, it will be better than just not going and sitting at home and saying that, yeah, my vote or my my job. It's not my job, and my vote doesn't matter, or uh, stuff like that. It's better to just uh, vote in federal elections.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I mean, we've been going for about a little over an hour. I'm okay
Mhm.
with stopping here, and I'll let that
Yeah,
last word that you said, be the last word of the stream. Uh,
yeah. We
thank
are
you.
agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, thanks for coming on.
Mhm.
I appreciate it. It was an interesting discussion.
Yeah. Thank you as well for inviting me, and I think we may. You gave me some interesting thoughts about the politics in general.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.